Good afternoon, fellow tradesmen. So I've been watching a lot of the ATRA podcasts that they have, and this may seem like a bash on ATRA, but it's really not, and it's not meant to be come across like that. But I just want to tell you my experience about this trade, and it's a trade I happen to love, and I devoted my life to it, and I'll probably die in it. But I started in 1977, 16 years old, and in this trade, back then you started out as basically a cleanup boy, and then you start breaking down transmissions for the rebuilder, and then eventually the guy says, why don't you try putting one of them together, and so eventually you become a rebuilder based on repetition. But back then there was only maybe 8 units, 9 units. I happened to be fortunate. I worked in a shop. We did a lot of foreign work, so I had the exposure of some of the early Honda and Toyota units. And by 3 or 4 years later, I was making $800, which in 1979, 1980 is a lot of money. But the job offered no real vacation. Eventually you got 2 weeks vacation, which I never took. I would work my vacation to make the extra money. But you had basically were paid off the books for the most part back then. So there was no benefits, no retirement, only what you saved. Now you take friends of mine that had similar, not similar jobs, but jobs that they would get, and they'd be making half or a third of what I made. So, but that's a hurtful thing, because when you're young and making that kind of money, first of all, you never think about old age. You never think about health problems. So you really don't care if you have benefits. You just want all the money you can get. So I had new cars and jewelry and things my friends couldn't afford because I was making good money. But now we fast forward 41 years later, and in my case I happen to own my own shop the last 18 years or so, and ultimately my building will be my nest egg. But we take my same friends I compared to earlier, and one particular one is in a Masons union. He's a delegate now. He has probably almost $750,000 in his annuity. He's home at 3 o'clock, so his retirement portfolio looks a lot better than mine. And he gets vacation pay, good benefits, plus a good salary. So, and now in this case he even gets a company car. I have another friend that's in the elevator mechanics union. He gets the annuity, vacation pay, and all of that goes along with it, and he's looking at a comfortable retirement. So this trade and the ATRA podcast talk about people coming into the business, and the latest one was about women coming into the business, and I'm sure there are some newcomers, okay? But in all the years, in 41 years, and with the exception of maybe once or twice, not one young person has ever knocked on my door looking for a job. And if you advertise, you rarely get a call. And if you do, you get a call from usually somebody that's not really capable. So my point of all this is ATSG and ATRA, in my opinion, have dropped the ball. And it's too late now, but they should have formed a union. There's no reason why this trade couldn't have had annuities, pay scales, mechanics in A, B, and C categories, apprenticeships, medical benefits, everything plumbers, electricians, and most municipalities have the luxury of having. So now we fast forward and you go to Expo, and I've been going every year for the last, I don't know, maybe 7 years. And the beauty of Expo is meeting people that you become really close with, and that's the best part of Expo, in my opinion. But there's no, you look around and all you see is gray, like myself, glasses wearing because now you're older, who's limping, who struggles to get up out of their seat, myself included, because your knee hurts or your hip or whatever the case may be. When you get closer to 60 than you are to 50, you have new importance of what should have been. Now, I love this trade. I still get excited if a new unit comes in and I've never seen. And I'm sure most rebuilders that are still doing this are like that, and that's why we keep doing it. But it's not a good trade to attract youth to. Now, I spoke with Sean Boyle a few times at Expo, who I admire, and a lot of his students. He's a teacher in a trade school, and the cream of the crop usually gets picked up by manufacturers. Because why would somebody that goes to school that has potential want to come to a transmission shop? In my case, in Poughkeepsie, New York, it's, pardon the term, but I'm in an area where you stick the enema, you know? So you're much better off going with a manufacturer because you can work your way up the corporate ladder and retire with a decent amount of benefits, if not stock and everything else that goes along with it, and still do something you may enjoy. I broke my ass for 41 years to get where I am, and I'm probably working harder now than I did earlier because of the way things are, and I'm days away of having to go back on the bench full time if I lose the guy I have, because there's no guy to replace him. So if I had a son, the last thing I would want him to do would be do transmissions, because I think the end of the trail is coming. There may be 10 more years or maybe 15. Listen, there's always going to be something to repair, but it's not going to be like it was 20 years ago. The cars are lasting longer. They're getting more sophisticated. People can't afford to fix them now. When you start talking 6, 7, 8 grand for a transmission, where are people going to get that? Most cars we get in the shop now are 140,000 miles, 150. I had some 200,000. And you take them apart, the transmission is really not in bad shape in a lot of cases. May need a converter. But the point is, our days are numbered. Granted, I have to get the rest of my life out of it, but I don't think it's a viable trade anymore. It could have been, but I think as an industry, we dropped the ball. Now, I'm not stupid. Actra's not going to do podcasts and say, listen, guys, your trade is dying. You know, they have to seek out the good segments of it. And I'm sure there are segments and areas where this business is thriving like it did years ago. But more and more shops are closing, and more shops supplement the income of transmissions with general repair and other things. So, not to be a negative nanny or Nelly or whatever you want to call it, but I still like the trade. I always say I don't like the way I have to do it. I don't think there's a good answer for us. I think it's just we've coming to an impasse that I think our days as a transmission rebuilder, as we know it and as we enjoy it, is the road's coming to an end. And I don't enjoy having to say that, but for a lot of reasons, the trade didn't do us right. And I can't help but compare to other friends of mine that are sitting in a much better financial position than myself because of the career path they chose, where I made better money on the onset, but they're doing better at the end when we need it most. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Thank you, guys. I'm interested to hear your comments. You be well.